and current affairs OTT platform News9 Plus as well as News9 Live. Here are our top 9 headlines tonight. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has for the first time responded to allegations of an Indian assassination plot in the US, saying that he will look into any evidence, but a few incidents like these will not derail US-India ties. India's Union Health Ministry, in a review meeting involving health ministers from various states, underscored the need for a whole-of-government approach to effectively combat COVID-19's latest JN.1 variant. The World Health Organization, in its latest classification, designated JN.1 as a variant of interest. Rajya Sabha Chairman Jagdeep Dhankar has expressed pain and displeasure in the House over the way he was targeted by the opposition for the manner in which he greeted Prime Minister Narendra Modi at a public event this week. Wading into the controversy, India's President Draupadi Murmu wrote on X that I was dismayed to see the manner in which our respected Vice President was humiliated in the Parliament complex. After an exercise in which a single indigenous Akash missile system engaged 4 unmanned aerial targets, many countries in South America, West Asia and Africa have shown interest in its acquisition. The missile system has already received significant support and export orders from Armenia, with supplies set to commence in the next few months. A day after Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra Trust's General Secretary and senior Vishwa Hindu Parishad leader Champat Rai requested L.K. Advani and Murli Manohar Joshi not to attend the consecration ceremony of the Ram Temple in Ayodhya owing to advanced age, senior VHP and Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh leaders met the veterans and invited them for the event. In the United States, a Colorado court has declared Donald Trump ineligible to hold the US president's office again because of his role in instigating violence against the US government. The ruling makes Trump the first presidential candidate in America's history to be deemed ineligible for the White House. In West Asia, Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh will visit Egypt for talks on a ceasefire in Gaza and a prisoner exchange with Israel. Haniyeh is due to hold talks with Egyptian intelligence chief Abbas Kamel and others on an agreement for the release of prisoners. A United Nations Security Council vote to boost aid deliveries to the Gaza Strip has been delayed as talks continue to try and avoid a third US veto of action over the 2-month-long Israel-Hamas war. The vote has repeatedly been delayed as the UAE and the US struggle to agree on the language, citing a cessation of hostilities and a proposal to set up UN aid monitoring. In the world of entertainment, Ranbir Kapoor's blockbuster Animal is all set to pass the 850 crore rupee mark at the global box office before it faces the Donkey Salar Challenge this week. This will put it in the number 3 spot for Indian movies this year, behind Pathan and Jawan that made over 1,000 crore rupees. Shah Rukh Khan's starrer Donkey is all set to hit theatres on Thursday. We begin with our top focus tonight, and that is the JN.1 variant of COVID-19 that's increasing cases in India with every passing day. And today there was a high-level meeting chaired by India's Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandaviya with all other state health ministers in attendance. It was a virtual meeting, and there was talk about how India as a country has to come together to combat this new variant, which could be far more lethal. We are still understanding what the JN.1 variant is all about and how lethal is it going to be. And to understand that better, we have Dr. SWAMINATHAN, Senior Consultant, Infectious Disease, GLENEAGLES Global Health City, straight from Tamil Nadu. We also have Dr. ISHWAR GILADA, Consultant, Infectious Disease, UNISON, MEDICARE and Research Center, Mumbai, joining us. Thank you both of you for taking time out to be with us. So we begin with Dr. Subramanian Swaminathan. Dr. Subramanian Swaminathan, there was now a meeting to take cognizance at a government level, at a central government level. Tell us, the Union Health Minister talking about we need mock drills in hospitals across the country. What kind of a situation are we in at this point, and more importantly, how do we go forward from here?
Part of this is learning from what we have gone through in the past. It's about staying prepared and being ready for any kind of situation that may come up in front of us. this is not necessarily a response to what we anticipate at this point of time. So all the markers that we are seeing from the Western world and also from South and Southeast Asia is that it's not as bad as people should be petrified about. But having said that, it's always good to be prepared and make sure you don't have any gaps in the care paradigm so that care is seamless, there is no panic being meted out to the public, and it's always good to be ready before any kind of a wave, if we are thinking about it, hits us. So I think this is more prep work and in terms of mitigation rather than a real panic situation. So I think this is a good step. I think if we can come up with common sense directives to the general public and capacity building, it is a good thing in the long run, not just for COVID, but for any public health issues that may come up in the future.
Right, stay with us. We also have Dr. ISHWAR GILADA now joining us. Dr. ISHWAR GILADA, the question here at this stage is that how do hospitals prepare themselves for something like this? Even if they get orders from the state health ministry or the central government, are we in a much better prepared state today to deal with a brand new COVID-19 variant than we were before?
Yeah, we are actually pandemic prepared. We are much better than before. We have enough of medical manpower, we have enough of oxygen, ICU beds, ventilators, and whatever required medicines are there. What we need to prepare for is the vaccine, because the previous vaccine will not work. So we need to have a vaccine which will also work for this JN.1. And therefore, we need to alert the vaccine makers, and government may have to buy as a pre-purchase, because if government do not do pre-purchase, they will not manufacture the new vaccine. It's good that Government of India, particularly ICMR, has shared the newer strains with them so that they can be prepared to some extent. Secondly, we need to do genome sequencing continuously to understand whether it remains JN.1 or there are some new subvariants coming. And number three, we should do wastewater surveillance, and that is the cheapest method. And particularly in big cities, municipal corporation, where they do wastewater management, they can do a PCR test on the wastewater waste and then find out whether there is an infection in that community or not. So rather than expecting individual to be diagnosed, you diagnose the community, you diagnose the town, you diagnose the place, and then that can give you 10 days in advance indication that yes, a big problem is going to arise. So RT-PCR being a very sensitive test is a good test to find out even from the wastewater, and this is not a new technology. It is a 100-year-old technology. It was used for the first time in Ireland to detect enteric fever or typhoid infection.
Right, so that's as far as testing is concerned, but the question here is that Dr. GILADA is talking about the fact that the existing vaccines might not combat JN.1. Dr. SWAMINATHAN, would you also concur with that?
So you need to ask yourself an important question. The point is that although we don't have a very good fit against the current virus, what is the intent of the vaccine is what needs to be seen. So obviously we're going to have breakthrough infections, and please note that even in countries where the vaccination status has been exceedingly aggressive, there are places where they're given 3-4 boosters and all that stuff. In spite of it, they are having some amount of breakthrough infections. What is more important is, are we seeing excess hospitalization, ICU admissions, and as a result, mortality? That's what is important, because infections will keep happening, and even if we do start making a vaccine, it is going to be frankly impossible for us to vaccinate the entire country in a short period of time, because even if we share the sequence and they start making it, we can at best target maybe 6 months from now. And the speed at which the JN1 is going past, it will probably be over by the 15th of January, no later than say Republic Day. So I don't think we'll have enough time for the vaccine. Is the vaccine a good idea? It's a nice idea, but I suspect it may not be practicable to get that done in a short period of time. And I think we need to rely on what our hybrid immunity is to combat this particular issue. And that's where the data from other countries comes in. We need to look at very carefully data that's coming in, not just from China, but also from Singapore, Western Europe, and North America. And the good news is, although there has been a rise in not just infections, but also hospitalizations, the delta, the percentage change is actually very, very small. The US has reported a 3% rise in hospital admissions and ICU admissions. 3% is not a huge number, 3% over their current baseline, which basically is something that we can easily handle at this point of time. Obviously, there are a lot of unknowns here because our immunity may be slightly different from their immunity. Will we respond the same way? All those things are unknown, but we'll have to continue data collection. Dr. GILADA pointed it out. Things like wastewater surveillance and things like that are obviously critical to know where it is moving faster, and resource allocation based on need is probably a better idea rather than to try and shove everything everywhere.
All right, Dr. SWAMINATHAN, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, Dr. GILADA, also thank you so much for taking time out to be with us. Time now to shift our focus away from that and on to the second lead story tonight. Our second lead story tonight has got to do with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has spoken finally for the first time about allegations of an assassination plot in the US. Many questions were raised. Will this issue cause trouble in the newly rebooted US-India ties thanks to PM Modi? And now PM Modi himself has cleared the air, saying that we will go by the rule of law. We will need to look into anything that an Indian does on American soil, good or bad, and that these incidents will not affect the bilateral relationship between India and the United States of America. To understand this better, we have Ambassador KP Fabian, former Indian diplomat, now joining us on the News 9 Plus show. Thank you so much for taking time out to be with us, sir. The question here is that it's now the Prime Minister himself who's come out in the open and spoken and of course reassured those who are worried how this entire issue, this Guru Patwant Singh Pannu issue, will affect the India-America partnership.
Thank you. Well, it is abundantly clear that the United States has, mark my words, apparently solid evidence of an attempt from India to murder the person whose name you have mentioned. I said apparently solid because the Federal Bureau of Investigation has presented an indictment where all this is clearly stated. Now, I do not think that this matter is going to affect seriously Indo-American relations because we have to look at the big picture. Both India and America need each other. At the same time, as the Prime Minister has now clarified, though earlier the External Affairs Minister also had clarified that since America is giving us evidence or inputs, we are prepared to look into the matter, and I suppose we have been looking into the matter, and let us hope it will be resolved soon. But as I said, we have to take note of the fact that America has, apparently solid evidence.
Right. The reason why there were worries surrounding what's going to happen to the India-US partnership is because of what happened before with India and Canada, and that led to huge diplomatic tensions that are yet to even abate completely. And before that, we have this issue with the US. And in that sense, how do you compare these two issues and these two relationships?
Well, the way India reacted to the credible, I repeat, the so-called credible allegations, quote unquote, from Canada is different because Canada did not give any proper input, whereas America has. But at the same time, we have to recognize that America, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand, they form the so-called Five Eyes, and they exchange intelligence regularly. So now, in the case of this Panun case, there is reference to Nija killing. So all these are interrelated.
Right. Tell us about the way forward. What happens now? Because at the end of the day, Guru Patwant Singh Pannu is a dual citizen, has a dual citizenship of US and Canada, and India has designated him as a terrorist, but he calls himself an activist. And at the end of the day, this is about another Indian who was plotting to kill Guru Patwant Singh Pannu. So, in that sense, how much impact do you think this latest clarification from the Prime Minister himself have on the entire issue?
Now, as I said, India has now, at the level of the Prime Minister, reiterated that it would look into the matter very seriously. So, his Prime Minister has only repeated what earlier had been said at lower levels.
Currently, the industry is facing a lot of challenges as far as demand is concerned. Basically, that US markets has slowed down because of high inflation.
So obviously, diamonds being a dream product, something which doesn't have a utility value or is seen as a luxury. So that obviously goes off your shopping list. That's the first item that will go off your shopping list, especially in recessionary trends.
That lab-grown diamonds are not mined, and they do away with the entire mining. So they save up on all the environmental damage that is associated with mining, and of course, the mining cost, which is why they're even more affordable.
People that is impacted by all these recessions are the artisans, are the people who work in this industry, right? But I think lab-grown diamond has allowed them to actually use their skills in the same product.
This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
Bangalore traffic is an example of something that has gone wrong with our system.
We have more than 50 flyovers in Bangalore city. If flyover is a solution to traffic problem, Bangalore should not have traffic problem.
According to TomTom Traffic Index 2022, Bangalore is ranked as the second worst city in the world when it comes to traffic.
The speed limit at the ORR is 80 kilometers per hour, but our vehicle has only moved 10 kilometers per hour.
What Bangalore needs is a surgery, but what we have been offered repeatedly are band-aids.
Only on the world's first news OTT, News9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
जब हम करेंगे तो पता लग ही जाएगा सलमान खान का करेंगे मारेंगे या जोधपुर में मारेंगे तो पता लग जाएगा
This is someone who is sitting inside our jails and is still very obviously and openly running and possibly the largest organized criminal operation in the country.
Student organization of Punjab University में सोपू का acting president type भी रहा है.
He was a troublemaker, getting into fights with people, not coming to the class.
As on date, it appears that Lawrence gang is the most important, the prominent gang. Gangs here in Punjab, they are intimidated.
Today, he's India's most dangerous gangster, and India's prisons are apparently no bar to how Bishnoi runs India's largest criminal empire.
News is now content. Just stream it. Download the world's first news OTT, News9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
In that sense, there is nothing new, but then fact of the matter is the man himself saying it, and that will definitely be heard by no less than the US President Joe Biden.
You are right.
And that should hopefully clear up the mess going forward. Are you expecting a positive resolution to all that's been going on so far?
Well, I expect India and the United States to be in touch with on this matter and to resolve it as soon as possible.
Okay. The only question here is that, this is coming from the Prime Minister. What happens at the diplomat level once the Prime Minister makes a statement like this, Mr. Fabian?
Well, at the diplomatic and intelligence level, the matter has to be further pursued, and I take it that it is being done. Okay. Please understand that the Prime Minister's statement is not the beginning of the attempt to resolve the matter. The attempt to resolve the matter has been underway for quite some time.
Okay. The only hope is that now that there's a statement from the Prime Minister, the attempts and the process of resolving the matter can only hasten up further, isn't it, Mr. Fabian?
Absolutely. It will certainly hasten up.
Okay. And what do you think needs to be done apart from this personal clarification from the Prime Minister to resolve the issue, in your opinion?
Well, that is for the intelligence agencies of the two countries to work out, and as I said, they are working it out, but we also have to watch closely what happens in New York, the indictment. And you would have also seen that there is a matter of Gupta, who is in the Czech Republic, about whom his family has gone to the Supreme Court. And as you might have read, the Czech government has said that India has no jurisdiction in the matter.
Okay, but what we do know so far is that Mr. Nikhil Gupta paid $100,000 as money to get Guru Patwant Singh Pannu assassinated.
Well, he paid $15,000. $100,000 was the agreed sum, but as far as we know, only $15,000 has been paid, as you know, in dollar bills. But what might happen is that he will be extradited to the United States as demanded by the United States Embassy in Prague, and then he will have to appear before the court in New York. So what he might say will be of great importance.
So you're saying that now the greater clarity will come once Nikhil Gupta speaks in court. Then we will get a better understanding of what exactly has been going on.
Yes. And also, I have read in the American newspapers that Nikhil Gupta himself had been recruited by the United States intelligence. After all, why did he leave suddenly on the 30th of June for Praha?
Okay.
Because it is believed, I don't know, I'm not in it, it is believed that the Americans were trying to get him out of India.
Okay. Whereas the allegation is that he was doing it at the behest of an Indian government official. But then we will have to wait for more clarity on that. But for now, Mr. Fabian, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on the News 9 Plus show. Our other big story tonight has got to do with Mr. Donald Trump. Donald Trump is now ineligible to run for the President of America's post. That's right. He has been declared as ineligible by a court in Colorado in the US, the first American president in history to be ineligible to run again. To understand what this means for Trump and for the upcoming US presidential elections, we have a couple of very special guests joining us. We have Ambassador Meera Shankar, former Indian ambassador to the US. We also have Rabinder Sachdev, foreign affairs expert, joining us here on the News 9 Plus show. Thank you both of you for taking time out to be with us. I'm going to begin with Ambassador Meera Shankar. Tell us, there were always questions of whether Trump will be able to contest or not. We really thought up until now that there was nothing stopping him, especially considering how other candidates in the Republican Party have been faring. Trump still had a very good chance, but looks like now he's just been ruled out.
Yes, I think the Colorado Supreme Court has held that Trump cannot be on the primary ballot for the Republican nomination in Colorado under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which basically says that any US official who has taken an oath to the Constitution but engages in insurrection or rebellion will be ineligible to stand. Now, the question is, because the court has also suspended the operation of its judgment till January 4th, giving Trump time to appeal to the Supreme Court, and this is certainly likely to go to the Supreme Court for a judgment. Many other similar challenges have been there, but a lower court in Colorado earlier had held that the president was guilty of inciting insurrection and rebellion, the former president, but that the president himself or herself was not covered under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. It did not apply to the president. So these legal questions, I suppose, will be examined and addressed if and when Trump goes in appeal to the Supreme Court. Now, this ruling debars Trump from being on the ballot in Colorado, including the Republican primary ballot. But if Trump's appeal to the Supreme Court, which he has said he will be lodging, is admitted before January 4th, then the operation of this judgment is in suspension. It will be withheld till the Supreme Court takes a view. If, of course, the appeal is not accepted before 4th January, then the judgment will come into operation and Trump will not be able to get onto the ballot of Colorado. But other states, the Colorado writ will not apply in other states. So he will be free to actually contest in the other states unless there is a specific ruling by the Supreme Court of that state or a court in any state, or the Supreme Court of the United States rules that he is ineligible under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Now, this section was adopted in the wake of the 14th Amendment itself, and this section was adopted in the wake of the US Civil War in 1866. And it was essentially designed to prevent former Confederate supporters who had participated on the secessionist side in the Civil War from actually running for office, government office in the United States. So it's a clause which has been used very rarely in recent times, and certainly for a potential presidential candidate, it's something which would be a first.
Right. Rabindra Sachdeva, if I were to ask you as a foreign affairs expert, is it all over for Trump? Do you see other states also ruling just like the state of Colorado?
No, it's never all over for Trump. Firstly,
can never count him out, can you?
No, absolutely not. In fact, he monetizes this. See, each time, there is a legal case, a court hearing against him and all, his campaign goes out, runs email marketing campaigns and all, and raises funds, playing the victim card. So each such episode actually drives up his campaign money. His collections. That's one. Secondly, he'll continue to fight. But the point which you said, yes, what this has potential is that you see the US, as Ambassador was very well explaining, the US electoral system is different for each state. That is, each state has its own laws as to how it runs or conducts its own elections, right? Now, there have been already earlier some cases. I think there was a case in Minnesota recently on the same plea that insurrection, promoted by Trump, and therefore he should, under Section 3, not be eligible to get on the ballot. That was turned down, I think. But what this case will do is that, other than how this case proceeds, it will inspire and encourage more cases against him in other states also. There are some cases already ongoing. It will give them more momentum that, look here, Colorado upheld it. So that's the bigger problem for him, I think. That's one. Second, this case, it goes to the Supreme Court. There are some, twists in the tails. Now, the Colorado Supreme Court has given him till January 4th. But what the State Department of Colorado, which is in charge of conducting the elections of the primaries also, they're saying that they need to have the ballot printed by January 5. So will it be last minute and they'll say, okay, we cannot put Trump on the ballot still because it's still open, or Trump would be able to appeal in the Supreme Court? Then how long does Supreme Court take? The primary elections in Colorado, I think, are on the 4th of March or so. Will the case be disposed by then? No. If the case is ongoing, then okay, he will be there on the primary ticket and he will win the primaries probably. Long term, a theoretical scenario, it won't happen. But let's say, Colorado has, whoever wins Colorado amongst Democrat, Biden and Trump, let's say, will get 10 electors, right? And for the presidency, you have to gather 270 electors. So if in a very, theoretical scenario, hypothesis, that Trump cannot be on the ballot in Colorado and he's still contesting, then it means that he will not be able to, gather or contest. In any case, he's losing. Colorado is always Democrats, but those 10 electors cannot be, he won't have those 10 electors or the possibility of those 10 electors. So the problem, therefore, is not only this, the other states where these cases will start to be filed or moved ahead more.
Okay, the only question I have to ask Ambassador Meera Shankar at this stage is that how do you see this in terms of law in the US? Are you seeing this particular ruling from the Colorado court setting a precedent for Donald Trump in other states as well?
It will probably play out along political partisan lines. It's possible that states which are governed by Democrats and where there is a Democratic-dominated court, with judges appointed by the Democrats, could take a similar view. But even if you see the way the responses from both the parties have lined up, the Republicans have broadly come out in support of Trump. Vivek Ramaswamy has said he will himself withdraw from the ballot if Trump is not reinstated. And he's called on his other contenders of the Republicans to do the same. Ron DeSantis has also criticized it, so has Chris Christie. There are other Republicans who have criticized it. And then if you look at the Democrats, they have supported it and said there has to be accountability for what Trump did on January 6th so that it doesn't happen again. So it's, the response has been broadly on partisan lines.
Okay.
But if more courts in the states start giving similar judgments, especially the Democratic nominated courts, then I do hope that the Republican Party itself may pause to think about Trump's winnability and how this is going to impact middle of the road and independent mainstream voters whose support will be essential to swing the presidential election. As of now, they don't show any signs of reconsidering.
All right, no signs of reconciliation. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it at that. We've completely run out of time here. I'm going to thank Ambassador Meera Shankar and Robert Sachdev for taking time out to be with us here on the News 9 Plus show.
The scale of the attack was something that we were surprised at. David Hadley was a double agent. The Americans did not want him to be fully exposed, so all that he probably shared with the Americans was not shared with us in terms of intelligence. If we had that, I'm sure that we would have been able to deal with the situation far better.
This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus. Download now.
वर्ष 2070 तक भारत नेट जीरो का लक्ष्य हासिल करेगा.
There is certainly a wall of capital coming into the clean tech, climate tech space, not just in India but across the world.
This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus. Download now.
Bangalore traffic is an example of something that has gone wrong with our system.
We have more than 50 flyovers in Bangalore city. If flyover is a solution to traffic problem, Bangalore should not have traffic problem.
According to TomTom Traffic Index 2022, Bangalore is ranked as the second worst city in the world when it comes to traffic.
The speed limit at the ORR is 80 kilometers per hour, but our vehicle has only moved 10 kilometers per hour.
What Bangalore needs is a surgery, but what we have been offered repeatedly are band-aids.
Only on the world's first news OTT. News 9 Plus. Ahead of the curve.
जानना है तो देखिए, समझना है तो सुनिए सीखना है तो पूछिए और कमाना है तो खरीदिए। जानकारी, सलाह और निवेश सब एक ही सुपर ऐप पर। पैसे का सवाल है तो जवाब है Money9। आजादी पैसे की, अभी डाउनलोड करें।
India has deployed 2 warships off the coast of Aden amidst Houthi rebel attacks in the Red Sea. This after the US deployed the 10 nations naval force to protect ships from Houthi attacks. Codenamed Operation Prosperity Guardian, the force includes the UK, Canada, France, Bahrain, Norway and Spain. Yemen's Houthi rebels are attacking the commercial ships in the Red Sea in support of Hamas in its war against the Israelis. The attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea risks pushing up the price of oil and other goods. Deepak Badana brings us this explainer on the rising crisis in the Red Sea.
Yesterday, 2 destroyers from the Indian Navy, the INS Kochi and INS Kolkata, was sent to patrol the high seas off the coast of Aden to secure India's energy supplies. Just a day earlier, the United States launched Operation Prosperity Guardian, an expanded maritime protection force consisting of 9 nations that will secure the strategic Bab al-Mandab Strait. So why are some of the world's greatest powers suddenly heading to the Gulf of Aden? The answer lies in the intricate interplay between regional conflicts, maritime security and global trade routes. This strait between Yemen on the Arabian Peninsula and Djibouti and Eritrea on the Horn of Africa connects the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea via the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. And it is a passageway for over 10% of seaborne crude oil. The attacks come from the Houthis, Yemeni rebels who are backed by Iran. The group is reportedly acting in solidarity with Palestinians. They have threatened to attack any ship bound for or leaving Israel without delivering humanitarian aid to Gaza. The attacks began on November 19th when Houthi fighters hijacked a cargo ship. Then on December 12th, a Houthi missile damaged a Norwegian tanker. On December 15th, projectiles hit Hapag-Lloyd's container ship Al Jazra and a drone attacked the Liberian-flagged MSC Palladium 3. Even French warships have been targeted. These attacks have serious implications for East-West commerce and commodity shipments through the Suez Canal. They impact delivery of seaborne crude oil, leading to a rise in global energy costs and rising war risk premiums for shipping companies. Presently, major shipping companies like MSC, Maersk, CMA CGM and others have temporarily suspended Suez Canal use, opting for the 8,900 kilometer longer route around the Cape of Good Hope. In response, the US Central Command reported that the guided missile destroyer Karne shot down 14 Houthi drones, and the US launched Operation Prosperity Guardian to counter Houthi attacks and to ensure commercial shipping safety. Ongoing discussions involve Arab states like Jordan, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman and Egypt and Bahrain forming a multinational task force to further secure the region. As Houthi rebels maintain control over this strategic choke point, the repercussions extend far beyond the Red Sea, impacting economies, shipping operations and the stability of global energy markets.
1/3 of all food in India is lost or wasted even before it's eaten. Nearly 50,000 crore rupees worth of food is wasted in India every single year. 68.7 million tons of food, or about 50 kilograms per person, is wasted annually in Indian homes. India, a country renowned for its extensive culinary history, is sadly facing a serious problem of food waste. This urgent problem has humanitarian and economic ramifications because millions of tons of food are wasted every year and a sizable section of the population still faces starvation. The poor infrastructure for transportation and storage of food is one of the primary causes of food waste in India. Inadequate facilities cause a large volume of food to just go spoilt or rotten, which costs farmers and other producers a lot of money. There is a need for improved management techniques and raised consumer knowledge of responsible consumption. Take a look at this report of ours called Rotten Reality. You can watch this and many more such stories only on the News9 Plus app. Download it from the App Store or the Play Store. But for now, thanks for watching. This is Krishna Kumar signing off.
Every individual in India generates about 50 kilograms of food waste every year. This is enough to feed a typical Indian wedding procession. And India's food waste problem is worsening every day. It's evident in our streets, trash cans and landfills.
Happy birthday!